Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome to the Creator Series. And in this Creator Series interview, I'll be chatting with not one, but two creators about how they have continued creating music despite not being able to actually be together. Their band is called the Indigo Sunsets, and I want to welcome to Studio Live today, Stu and Andy. How are you, gents?
Very good. He's not loading up. I think we're going to give Pete Jones
We're not
one of
worthy.
these. I think we're not worthy.
We're not worthy.
Feeling like Alice Cooper. There'll be plenty of '90s references, folks. But just a fair warning because we are all '90s aficionados. But welcome to the channel. We've just lost Andy's picture. There, he's back. We've lost him for a sec, but he's back. Welcome to the channel and welcome to Studio Live today. Now, the way we start off these interviews is that we ask for your origin story. So your musical origin story, your creator backstory. Now we've got two of you, so we're going to have to do two for the price of one. So who would like to kick us off and tell us how you got started in this caper called music?
Andy's going to go first.
Andy?
Yeah. Well, I think our history is that interconnected anyway. I mean, we've been kicking around since about 1998, which is making us feel really old now. But no, we started our first band, funnily enough, called Indigo Sunsets, and we had a fairly decent following around the local Redditch circuit, didn't we, Stu?
Massive.
Redditch, yeah, massive. We were huge on Wednesday nights in the White Hart. It was a big deal to us, we started. We did our first ever gig without a bass player as well, didn't we, Stu? Which was it sounded terrible. Absolutely terrible, but learnt our ways, and we managed to get £1,000 together for our first PA system.
Yeah,
and that was quality. Yeah, outside musical exchanges in Birmingham, going in to purchase that for the first time, Stu.
Yeah, so my dad gave us £1,000. He must have seen something in us. I don't know what it was, but so my dad gave us a rolled up £1,000. It was, if I remember, and so we took it. We took it to a place called Music Exchanges, which was an outlet for to buy all your kit and all your gear. And we ended up, before we got in there, we ended up playing a game of football in the car park with this £1,000. We'd never seen £1,000 before, so we were booting a roll of £1,000 notes around the car park, trying to be a bit rock and roll until it almost went down the drain, but it didn't. So anyway, so we went into musical exchanges and. We had no idea, like rubbish, no idea. So we went in and we came out with these Celestian speakers. I mean, they were, weren't they, Andy? They were massive, and could hardly get them in the car. And we really regretted that because trying to get them to gigs and upstairs and into corridors and all sorts, trying to set up. But that's how we started off. Yeah, so we bought a load of kit and then started off without a bass player.
Tearing up the local music scene. So without a bass player, so we're talking because folks may not know the Indigo Sunsets or what you do. So you both play guitars. What's the layout of your band and who does what in the Indigo Sunsets?
Well, in the Indigo Sunsets, yeah, I'm predominantly the guitar player.
Hang on a minute.
I mean, yeah, come on, Stu, come on. When I need a good E chord, you're there for me. But no, I lay down most of the guitar tracks, and then Stu will come on and add on embellishments as well. I'll put the bass lines down as well. And what's interesting, and we'll probably talk about this later when we come to the sort of how we build the tracks, but I'll do a bit of a bass run, and then Stu will actually go in with the GarageBand instruments afterwards as well, and then literally lay down the root notes on the beat alongside my bass. So in essence, we've got two bass guitars going. But the genius comes from Stu when it comes down to the vocal work anyway. So
Yeah, well, I won't disagree with that, mate. If I'm honest. I think what's really good is that Andy's background is so he loves Hendrix and he loves Wham, Neil Sedaka, all that sort of stuff. No, he's all over Hendrix, Rolling Stones, and everything like that, and so I'm a real '90s child as well. So my favourite band of all time is a band called Shed 7 from York, and they're sort of a quality indie band, and with Oasis and the Charlatans and Stone Roses and all those. And we seem to find this sort of middle ground with our music writing, where we sort of get a feel for all of those genres. Andy plays like 16-bar blues all the time, and I try and find something that sits over the top of it from the 1990s.
He tries to find something worth making out of my making music out of what I produce sometimes. So.
Well, the result is very cool, and I've said to you guys, you get a leave pass with me because also child of the '90s, growing up with '70s rock. So when you can combine those elements and you get what you've been producing, and as you've been telling me, you've only been really getting into the recording side of things recently, which we'll be talking about in just a few moments. But definitely do check out. We've got links to your Facebook, your Instagram, your YouTube channel. There's a heap of videos and songs and ways to follow the guys. So do head on down there and support some. I'm going to say some local independent music because you got me into this whole local scene thing. But I guess we are global now, aren't we? Global.
We are global.
And thank you to Jade, who has got a link there. So if you're here live, hello, by the way. We haven't said g'day to the folks who are here live on Facebook and YouTube. If you have a question for the gents, I've got some really easy sort of low ball ones. If you've got some real curveballs that you want to throw at the guys, please throw those in the chat. And that way you can be the bad folks and I'll just look like I'm doing the right thing. Let's continue on. The other thing I'd like to ask about your origin story. So what was your first instrument and how old were you when you first got into music or discovered music and started playing for the first time? Andy, why don't you kick us off?
He's always been about the guitar for me, and I probably wanted to play since I was about 7 years old. I remember me mum and dad having their acoustic guitars sort of hung up on the wall, and that was kind of my inspiration. And what was really funny when I was a kid growing up as well, my dad would go out and my mum would put her Beatles records on for me and say, don't let your dad know I've let you listen to this. And then when she'd go out, dad would bring out the Jimi Hendrix and the Who and say, there you go, son, listen to that. So, really sort of inspired by my parents to get into my music. And I suppose just becoming an angry teenager as well, locking myself away in my bedroom and just literally playing guitar along to records. So that's where it really started for me. No social life.
We can all relate. We can all relate. Stu, what about yourself? Age and instrument? Did you start with ways of rock and roll?
Yeah, I mean, the most rock and roll thing I was doing when I was a kid was probably the recorder. I was pretty good. We used to knock out a song called Match of the Day, which was a Saturday football theme song. Match of the Day was always a classic. So, a bit of drumming through high school, a little bit of drumming. I was rubbish at that, to be honest. And like Andy, so my dad was a massive Billy Joel fan. So every time we used to go in the car, it used to be a Billy Joel track on the go. He used to love Alison Moyet, Billy Joel, flipping it, Tubular Bells, Neil Sedaka. Mm-hmm. In fact, that was probably a lie, the Neil Sedaka one, but it sort of rings a bell. So you sort of you sort of get ingrained in these different styles, if you like. But it wasn't until the sort of the very early 1990s that I really sort of found what I wanted to do. And then my dad bought me a Fender Squier, which was a rip-off of a Strat. So I learnt on that. I learnt with tabs. So I learnt with the Definitely Maybe guitar tab with backing tracks, and that's how I learnt to play the guitar.
Nice.
And I was rubbish at that as well, Pete. I still am rubbish at the guitar, but
a good E chord though, I hear. That's the word on the street. It's interesting, talking about that and hearing your influences, because it definitely comes through in your music. And again, we won't be playing the music here on the interview because we've got too much to talk about. But I do recommend, as soon as we finish up here, jump over and start to listen, because when I start listening, I'm hearing because the Brit pop, the Brit alt rock pop kind of invasion of the 90s happened here in Australia, and we had the likes of Blur, Oasis, Pulp, Ash. We've been talking about a lot of these bands were really big here in Australia, and your sound is very reminiscent of some of those nostalgic sounds. So for blokes in their 30s and 40s like us, 30, should we go with 30s?
30s, late 30s, Pete.
Very late 30s, about 12 years into our 30s. Then we know these sounds and we love these sounds. So that's very, very cool. But definitely check out the music that these guys have been putting out there, because it is exceptionally good. And we're going to jump into that now. So obviously folks start out playing music and you're playing in bands. You got your £1,000 and you've got your PA and you're playing out there. When did recording become a part of it? When did you say, hey, we should probably actually start recording some of these tunes and actually start sharing them that way?
Yeah, do you want to go on?
Yeah, I think that's, probably lockdown forced a hand, really. I mean, we've always talked about it for years. And I suppose you get into this sort of cycle with a covers band. We played in the same band with the same lineup for a good few years now, and you just get into this cycle doing weddings, doing private parties, playing pubs, and you never quite get round to doing it. And I think lockdown has forced our hand into thinking, you know what, actually we can produce something. And we started off trying to do all these collab videos where it was a case of I would film myself. I think the first one we tried was Waterfall by Stone Roses.
It was.
So I'd film myself and then I'd send that video clip to Stu, who'd listen to it on his ear duds and then try and play along, then send me back the video, and I get iMovies and try and sort of sync them up. And we'd get it vaguely in the ballpark and go, yeah, we're brilliant, and then put it on Facebook. But it was chapter 6, wasn't it, Stu, that made us start thinking seriously about pulling our music together.
Yeah, definitely. I had chapter 6 in the locker to a certain extent, and then stumbled on. I think what I was trying to do on GarageBand, I've seen GarageBand for a while now, for at least a few years at least. So always had a tinker with it, but never mastered it at all. Never really understood. It's easy now, but things like song sections and even to the point where I was getting confused, where it would only give you 8 bars for the track. And I ended up just getting fed up of it because I couldn't understand. You press your plus button, then you add your bars in. I didn't really get that far, so I ended up just doing a load of stuff, playing around with it, and then just putting it away and not getting hold of it. And then I thought, you know what, I'm going to try and learn how to do it. So I looked on YouTube and found this Messiah, and I think his name was Pete Johns, if I recall. Yeah, it was Pete Johns. And and honestly, no word of a lie, it was like a light bulb going off with all what you can do, and I've been glued to it ever since. And it just so happens that we can craft out the odd song and feel our way through, and that's how we sort of got into it, really. And then I managed to find out and work out how to collab on it as well. So and we do that over iCloud. So what we do there, so we'll it doesn't work on the iPhone, it crashes, but on the iPad, where you add people, and then I send Andy an email through add people, and then that shares it through the iCloud, so he can update it, I can update it, we could be on the same project and work it through. So and that's how we've been doing it, really. And yeah, I did chapter 6 on my own, and then we did was it Sirens, the next song?
Sirens next, yeah. So then Andy built Sirens on GarageBand, and then we collabed, and I sang over that. And that's sort of how it's gone. And then as it sort of carried on through, we've then started to get a bit more 50-50 in terms of our input and what we've been doing, which is pretty cool.
Very cool indeed. So both on GarageBand iOS on your iPads primarily, 100%.
Yeah. iPad Air 2 I've got.
Nice.
I'd say one of the features I really enjoy on the iPad Air 2 is a feature called optimizing performance. I think it's a cracking feature.
It's a cracking. I never leave home without mine, and I love that.
It just gives you a bit of time to yourself.
That's the break. That's like where they come in and they say, "Oh, we need to fumigate the studio. You need to get out of here for 20 minutes," and then you just leave. And, you just wait for the optimizing performance. Now, I know many of the folks here do use GarageBand and know all about this. But yeah, if you don't, or if you're new to music recording, so GarageBand on iOS is fantastic. And but if sometimes you push it to the extreme, so you get a whole bunch of tracks and effects and things going on, it's usually when you're right in the groove and you're about to just do some amazing move that's going to make the song perfect. It'll pop up this little window that says optimizing performance, and it can take anywhere from 30 seconds to to actually go across this little time window. So yeah, it's go have a cup of tea and lie down and come back later. But yes, we say that, but again, it is amazing because GarageBand does give you the opportunity to do the sort of collaboration you're doing. I know you guys are in a similar area and have collaborated in person before, but it doesn't even matter if you haven't. And we've seen examples of virtual bands where there's look at Saigon Slick and the Boston Bard, for those that are on the Create Record Release or the GarageBand users group. We've got Ron over there in Ho Chi Minh City, and we got Brian in Boston, and they do the exact same thing, collaborating, and they're across Mac and they do a whole bunch of other things. But it is amazing that with GarageBand iOS that you can do that. You can share people, and the first time that you're in a track that someone else has created, you add to it and then send it back to them, and then they get your guitar part just magically over this amazing iCloud thing. We take it for granted these days that you can do all this online collaboration, but it is an awesome thing to see. Let's jump on. So what made you? I mean, we've talked about this a lot, but what made you sort of create the style that you actually create of your music? Was there any time where you've delved into other things? Did anyone have a giant metal phase or get into folk rock or anything, or punk endeavors, or has this always been kind of the style of music and that you've been creating?
I think for me, I love flamenco guitar, and I would actually trade what I can do with the guitar at the moment to be able to play Spanish guitar that well. I mean, we're talking sort of like Anders Segovia sort of style. I absolutely love that. And there was a little while, I suppose, my first time playing about with GarageBand, I would just sit there with an acoustic or a classical guitar trying to put down these sort of flamenco rhythms, but it sounded awful because I just didn't have the know-how at the time behind me to be able to actually get it to sound half decent. Mastering was something that I hadn't even heard of at the time, so it was like, well, let's just put a few of these these tracks down. So for me, I've got that sort of side to me, and I have sort of dabbled a little bit into the sort of classical guitar type thing. But I think apart from that, I've been quite rigid with my sort of 60s, 70s influence rock, rock, probably very much West Coast America. So looking at things like The Doors, obviously Jimi Hendrix, that sort of thing.
Nice. And for you, Stu, had a strange hip hop or R&B period of your life, or have you been?
No, honestly, Pete, I have just been so pigeonholed to the 1990s, you wouldn't believe it. I love loads now. So since we were in the band, so our current band's called the Underdogs. So it's a covers outfit. So we do anything from Hendrix, the Beatles, the Kinks, the Who, the Stones, all the way into it's your typical covers band that do everything from the 60s all the way through to the and back end of the 90s, if you like. And so you sort of you start to really listen, because what we do try to do in our band, funnily enough, is we try to make it our own. So what we don't try to do is to emulate the whole thing like note for note, but we do try and make our own sort of style. And then you just get to, you get to really learn different styles, different genres and different ways. But one of the things that I've been experimenting on at the moment is on GarageBand is the synths and the pads. And that is a game changer on some of you to fill out, and you use the terminology, thicken your sound, and get some meat behind it. And actually, the pads and the synths, if you get it right and you get the right type of sound to complement the track, can really pump a song through. And we're all up for that, right? So we're all into I want to make a track as loud as I can without it just blocking. And normally my mixes are horrendous. They normally block out every single time, but we want to. That's the feel that I want I suppose the recipient or the audience to feel, as though we've got it's a pumping track and it moves you, and that's sort of the way that I like to write. And Andy can probably you like it, a bit of pumping rock.
I mean, the other day that we're working on a sort of 2 tracks at the moment, which we're hoping to get finished if Stu can find 5 minutes to put his vocals down. Bless him, he's flat out at the moment with work.
Flat out.
There was this. I sent this acoustic track over, and it just needed something at the very beginning. And we talk about the synths that Stu's been using, and just because I've got an idea, and just literally probably about half a bar on the intro to my acoustic playing, it just put this one sort of, I forget what he used now. It's almost like a vocal element. Yeah. It
was the Alchemy synths on the Shimmering Waves, I think it was called.
Oh yeah, nice.
And it just transformed it, and I was like, that sounds brilliant. Because I suppose what I'm doing is when I'm putting the guitar tracks down, I'm trying to get them to a stage where I'm thinking, actually, that sounds really good. Off they go to Stu, and then about sort of half a day later, I send him a WhatsApp message basically saying, "Are you clear of the track so I can jump in and have a listen?" And he's put these synths on, and it just completely transforms the song. So the approach we've been taking has really been to sort of looking at the roots of what we do, the bass, the drums, the guitar, the vocals, and then just adding the embellishments and everything over the top. And that's been the game changer for us. Absolutely.
Well, one of the tracks I was trying to get some more pump through it, and it ended up sounded like the Rocky theme. I used the trumpets, but it sounded like Rocky. It was ridiculous. Ridiculous.
You need to you need to fail fast and fail often and work out what doesn't work. Just
you do,
important
Pete.
what doesn't work is what does work for sure. No, it was good. It was a loaded question because I wasn't saying I'm pigeonholing you guys. Yeah, everything is about 90s rock, but you can definitely tell that comes through. And I think what you mentioned there about using pads and using synth sounds, like I think a lot of us older school rockers, put myself in this pigeonhole, we just think, oh, if it's not guitars and bass and drums and vocals, it's got to be something you can play live with a band. But if you look at the bands like Muse, like The Killers, like there's so many bands now that are pure rock and roll, but if you look under the hood, you see that there's a lot of stuff going on there. There's a lot of arpeggios, there's a lot of synth sounds, there's a lot of pads in there that are really filling out a mix. So yeah, it is awesome to start experimenting with that stuff, and it does make your music even better. Which again, you should check out the music. And I've said that a few times now, but for those who are just joining us here live, check out the links down in the description if you want to check out the boys in action. Speaking of the folks here live, we haven't even said g'day to them. So we're going to do a quick roll call here and say hello to the folks who are kind enough to be here live with us. So hello to Langston's here. We've got Jade Star in the house. SM Borthwick, we were chatting about you in the pre-show. All good things. Hello to you.
He's the man.
Tom Rochelle is here. We've got Soul Rack. G'day to you. Hello to Procreate Girl. I hope you're doing well. Gary Hubbs. I've got a feeling there's some cool stories coming. No pressure or anything, but cool stories in the cool stories in the mix. The bell's not working, so I keep missing you. Yeah, well, that's you're here now, so that's the main thing. I know it can be hard to find these. Here's someone saying thanks to you, Andy, for some kind words there. That's a familiar looking.
Oh, hello, Mom. Welcome.
Love it. Josh Gates, hello to you. Ender Squire with his first guitar as well. Brilliant. We've got a few folks being rude. We've got Andrew and Dan being rude about us being in our late 30s. So, we'll skip over those ones. Daniel's very keen and very interested in your guitar behind you there, Stu. So, you may be asking for a closer look a bit later. Chinton, hello to you. Yes, optimizing performance, a whole lot of fun for sure. Hello, Telephone is here. We've got Cody Bradley, Dom Fatchin, Andrew Bevan is here, and I think we've covered everyone. If I've missed you, I'm sorry, but if I missed you,
he's our drummer.
Bev's our drummer.
And Andy
there you
Bevan,
go.
he's our drummer.
Nice, love it. So if I didn't miss you, that just means that you have to ask a really tough question now, so that I can pop your question up there and say good day. There you go, and hello to Carolyn as well. Righty dokie. Now we did talk. The reason I went through all of that and that we were talking sort of backgrounds and history and stuff. I forgot my question. Hang on. Oh no, I did. I got it back. You talked before, and Andy, you mentioned, Stu's flat out busy, and if you're anything like most of us, you're trying to juggle work, family, life, and somehow finding time for music. So I'm interested to know, for those out there that are like, I just can't find the time for music, you guys have been pretty prolific with your production of tunes in the last couple of months in particular. And obviously it's a little easier at the moment because most of us can't leave our bloody houses. But what are some of the tips that you'd have or that you'd pass on? What's working for you for those that have a busy life but still want to make sure that they're making music? I
think get your chores done so your wife gives you the green card to get in the space to go and record. Yeah. Because, once I've sort of done a bit of gardening or washed up or whatever, can have 5 minutes to go and record. But no, I think for us, it's the serious answer is, if you really want to do it enough, you'll find the time. I mean, you could bury yourself in box sets on Netflix or Amazon or whatever. But I suppose it's really just choosing to do this, and I'm actually quite proud of what we've done over lockdown. We haven't wasted our time. We've actually really put a lot of effort in. Both of me and Stu have had to work through lockdown as well. Being quite fortunate we can work from home. But when you get that slot in the evening, rather than just sort of like cracking open a beer and watching Game of Thrones or whatever, it's about sort of, well, for me, coming in the conservatory here and just laying some tracks down. And then we're on FaceTime with each other, just talking about what we're going to do next as well. So, if you've got the want to do it, you will find the time quite easily.
I think what we've found, me and Andy, I guess we've been a bit lucky, really. So most stuff that we've had a go at, we've used. So we don't tend to put something together and put it on the shelf. We'll tend to get something and then just build on it. So, and we've done that with loads of stuff recently, where I will just scream a guitar lick into my phone, into like a voice recorder thing of a song that I want to, like a melody, if you like a guitar melody or a riff or something like that. And Sexy Pants here will just put it together, and all of a sudden it's on your lap, and he's done it. It's amazing. It's brilliant. He's brilliant on the guitar, and he's got a real ear for it, and that makes it super easy to collab with, because I'll just have to put down an idea of a riff on a phone and then send it to him, and he's put it together. So there's part of that. And then if I was going to give anyone some advice, I would say that do your loud stuff during the day, and do your stuff that you can do on your keyboard and your headphones when you're not going to make a noise in the evening. And that's what I typically do. So I do all my guitar and then all me screaming. I think my neighbours think I'm killing cats, but yeah. So I do all my loud stuff during the day, and then in the evening I'm normally on the pads, or I'm mixing, or I'm watching you, or it's a bit like I'm in a relationship with Pete Johns here. It's a bit of a funny one. It's a bit of the wife's like, you're going to come to bed? I'm like, no, I've got a date with Pete Johns at 10 o'clock. We're talking about optimization or whatever.
It is a bit weird. Yeah, like we were talking a bit beforehand, and it is a bit strange when my wife will come in and she's just like, who are these strange men that you keep talking to on the computer? And I'm just like, it's all right. We're just all making music together. But yes, as Jade says here, good advice there. Happy wife, happy life. Always a good one. And then Cody asked, "What if you have no wife?" And even better. But we'll continue on from that. But it's good advice, and I like what you have to say there. Like the two takeaways from there that I've done in the past, and I know I've worked for a lot of folks, is that sacrifice. So sometimes you do have to make that sacrifice, and it can be hard if you don't have the energy. At the end of the day, like grabbing a beer and sitting down and watching Game of Thrones is probably more appealing in the brain. But as soon as you can get into that habit of just sitting down, and what I say is, if you can do 5 minutes, then that's 5 minutes more than nothing. And you'll be amazed that once you start sitting down, that first 5 minutes, like you go for a run or you go to the gym, getting there is half the battle. And then once you're there, you're like, oh, this is actually okay. So you just start playing and start recording. So yeah, your 5 minutes will turn to 10 to 15 to an hour, and you'll realize you're getting a lot of stuff done, which is very cool. And I like your windows of time and planning that out, Stu. So making sure that, if you do need to do loud stuff, that you're doing it at the right time. Nothing worse than just saying, oh, I've got this one last bit to do. Oh, there's this bit where I scream in the chorus. It's also 11 p.m. and the kids are there. So I can't really do something like that. Alrighty. We're fast running out of time. I hope you guys are okay to go over time. Normally we've only got one person, so we do about 30 minutes. So we're probably going to go an extra 10 or so here, if you got the time, guys.
Go for it. Yeah, go for it.
Excellent. So we've talked a little bit about the tools and the hardware and the software. So I'm going to ask each of you, what is your favorite tool or favorite hardware or software, the one go-to thing? If you were to say the one thing that helps me create music outside of GarageBand itself or the platform you're using, what is the one thing that is your go-to thing to use when making music?
Go on, Andy.
Yeah, I think two for me. I mean, basically, this is pretty much all I'm using. That's pretty much it. But it's really, Nimbrini's been an absolute revelation. I play through Marshall JCM triple lead series, head and cab when I'm in a live situation, and that's as close as you can get to my actual amplifier sound. So I'm in familiar territory, with the Nimbrini stuff, but Tonebridge as well. When Stu said we got to get Tonebridge, and I'd sort of give it a quick look. I thought it was a bit of a gimmick because you could play like Martin Knopfler or you could play like Eric Clapton on the various settings. And then I had a bit more of a deeper dive into it. And the fact you could create your own tones with that is just absolutely fabulous. So I've been using that a lot to ensure that, I'm getting the sound I really like now. I've got to admit, before I came to GarageBand, I was like proper old school in terms of, you're only recording if you're using your amp properly, and you've got your mic set up. So I was a bit skeptical. But what Nembrini are doing, what Tonebridge does, has really opened my eyes to actually the capabilities that actually exist. That's been really, really helpful for me. And I just love the sound I'm getting from the guitar now, and the fact, and I suppose this is a little tip from me as well, is try and get your sound when you're recording initially, kind of in the ballpark by I don't know, if you want something that's slightly overdriven, just get a little bit of crunch on it, because you can always go back later and manipulate that sound as well. So don't get too hung up on getting it absolutely spot on when you're actually recording straight away. Half of the art is actually going back in and just manipulating it and getting it and polishing that sound a little later. And I've just really enjoyed using those two apps.
Excellent, good stuff. Stu, over to you.
Right, so I'm going to give you two as well, Pete, I reckon. So I bought, what's it called? So I bought a Focusrite 2i2 3rd gen interface, I think it's called. This is all new to me, by the way, Pete. This is like, everyone's talking about these like it's their bread and butter. This is all new to me. So this interface gives me the ability to be able to plug everything in and go for it. So I've got that. That was brilliant, because that was so easy just to stick. I mean, I've got all the gear from the band, so I've got an SM58 and I was plugging that in. But then I messaged you and you said, I said, what mic shall I get? You probably have that about 100 times a day. And you said to me, get a Samsung CO1, I think it was. I ignored that, by the way, Pete. I didn't mean to ignore it. But anyway, so I had a look. It looked really good. And then, so in the end, I went for a Rode NTA1. Is it called?
1A, yes, classic.
I saw Scott Borthwick had one. So I thought, oh well, if Scott Borthwick's got one, one's going in the bag. So I've got I can't show you because it's attached to whatever I'm on here. So I've got my mount and my Rode. I've got my Scarlett. I've got an iRig Keys Pro thing that I can't play because it hasn't got enough keys, so you can't get to the end of it. But anyway, it's fine. But yeah, so I've sort of as we've been, me and Andy have been sort of going along. I've just been buying bits and bobs and adding to it, and all of a sudden now I've got like a fully fledged setup and. A horrendous overdraft.
I love it. Well, not the last part, but I do love that there's a couple of things here that I've extracted from that. And one is that I love that Andy held up the iRig 2 and his phone and said, this is what I'm using to record, because a lot of people are like, I can't make good sounds until I have all of the gear, until I have a setup like Stu's just talking about here with the Rode NT1A and the Scarlett Focusrite interface. But you can. That's the thing. It's a matter of just using what you've got, and again, as Andy said, finding the way to sculpt your tone, finding what works for you. There's not just one way to do anything. You just need to find out what actually works for you. And like you say, the beautiful part, Stu, is that you don't need to go out there and buy everything at once, and you don't need to, like, recommendations are like arseholes. Everyone's got one. So yeah, find what works for you and go with that. And yeah, and I think I said to you, I'm like, oh yeah, the Audio Technica AT 2020 or the Samsung CO1, and then you went and bought a Rode, but that's okay. Rode are Australian, so you're supporting us down under here by buying a Rode microphone. So
that's why I did it, Pete.
Absolutely. Well, did you hear? Side note, but the guy who owns Rode microphones actually bought Kurt Cobain's acoustic, his Martin acoustic that he used on the Unplugged set for $10 million, and now he's going to tour that around the world so everyone can get to look at the classic Kurt Cobain Unplugged guitar, and then he's going to basically sell it and donate the proceeds to charity. So there you go. You're supporting a company that is run by a very cool dude. So
love it.
You're winning. Righty, we are going to have to finish up because we're getting, and it's late for you guys here, and it's early for me. I need a coffee, and you probably need a Bex and a lie down. So, this is sort of the two final questions that I ask here. So this one is the key one. For those that are here in the audience that are listening and watching this now, watching on the replay, wherever they are. Now, I'm going to make it one this time. I know you cheated last time and took two, but what is the one piece of advice that you would pass on to someone who's starting out, someone who's like, I love seeing what Stu and Andy are doing. I want to do stuff like them, but I just can't get over that hurdle. What's the one thing you'd say to them to help them get started?
I think for me, probably the part of the creative process, and certainly if you're collaborating, is don't be precious about what you're trying to do. There's been loads of ideas I've thrown at Stu, and I know if he's gone quiet on me for a day, he hasn't liked it. So it's like, that's fine. It's fine. It's okay. I'll just slowly weep into my coffee. No, it really is about, if you're entering into a collaboration, it's not like you're writing on your own. You've got somebody else to bounce ideas off. And what we've found is, we've taken a song where, like Last Man Standing, that sounded completely different when I started putting that together. Because I got the idea of the riff, I got the idea of the bridge section, and then sent it over to Stu, and he basically built the chorus for me, and it was like, came back and it was like, wow, that's totally not how I expected that song to be, but it's actually better than I could have imagined it. So it sounds really sort of like, I'm almost pulling quotes out the air here, but trust the process. Don't be precious about it either. If you're going into a collaboration, that's a good thing, because you've got two sets of ears on the music, and you'll be surprised what results you can actually get from it.
Love it.
Mine's pretty simple, mate. Mine is don't overthink. So that would be my advice, right? Once you sit down and you try and force something, forget it. Well, for me, it never happens. So if I sit down and I'm trying to force some lyrics out or force out some sort of melody or something, it never ever happens. So probably just taking some time to take a breather and clear your head, and then try to build on something. You try and force it. Just for me, it never happens. So that would be my advice. Take it steady.
And you've got some lyrics to write, Stu, actually. So
I have.
You're going to have to
force it.
Some sort of forcing to do.
Yes. I like it. I like both of those, and for a couple of reasons. Again, yes, I think my big catch cry is when you don't know where to start, just start. Because I am a classic cart carrying overthinker, and I struggled for many years, and I spent my 20s and 30s. Sorry, let the cat out of the bag. I'm actually in my 40s. Just not doing the things I wanted to do because of fear of judgment of what other people would think, and fear that it wouldn't be good enough. And both of those things you just need to kick out. Like that, neither of those thoughts help you at all, because we all start at zero. We all start by having done nothing, and the key thing is to to Andy's point, to find someone that you can actually share that with and to collaborate with, or find a group. Like we've got the Garage Band Users group on Facebook, self-promotion here, but the Create, Record, Release group on Facebook is a great bunch of folks, because you have that safe sharing environment. And the amount of times, and I'll throw out the cliches too, but what is it? The sum of the parts is lesser than the whole of the team, or something. I don't know. Some management training seminar told me that one time. But two people together, you're going to get a better outcome than two individual people doing things completely separate. And then if you go 3, 4, 5, 10, 50, the numbers are going to help. You're going to get different ideas and new ideas. So I like that. We do have some questions coming in from the folks here. The main one here was, what is that Marshall thing behind you? I think Desolate Morning was asking that before. What goes into your wall there? That looks pretty cool. Yeah,
so that is a key holder for your keys. But I've taken it upstairs, and what I do is I put my guitar jacks in it instead of my guitar nails. So if you go to Amazon and then search for Marshall key holder, you get like six little key rings with a jack on the end, so you can attach that to your keys, stick it in your kitchen, plug your keys in, and off you go. So I've just used it for it doesn't do anything, it doesn't play any noise or anything. It's pretty useless. In fact, I could probably just put my leads on the floor or in a drawer, or anyway.
Love it a lot. All right, the final question I ask here is what is the proudest moment since you started creating music? So the biggest achievement, the thing where you're looking back now so far, because obviously there's plenty more in the future, but what's the one thing that you look at and go, yep, that's when I know that things were just clicking along? Andy, what is it for you?
I think it probably was that track, Last Man Standing, that we did, and I think we'd done some really good music on the run up towards that. I mean, Chapter 6 was great. We put Sirens together. I thought that worked really well, but that was kind of the first time when we actually properly went into it 50-50. And really, as I said earlier, we trusted each other to bring something to that song. And it just really, really worked. I mean, from what was just a basic riff I was playing around with on the guitar to transform into it's a pretty loud driving track. And the reaction we got to that as well, I thought was really nice from people. I mean, we had some really positive comments from people who'd listened to that, and that's just really spurred us on to go out and create more. And we're at the stage now where I think these two we're going to polish off. We're actually going to go and release, aren't we, Stu?
Yeah. So we were going to do well, I was going to do chapter 6 on my own. I put chapter 6 onto Spin Up and took it off when me and Andy started, thinking, actually, what's the point in putting chapter 6 on my own? So let's do an EP. So we just thought we'd do 4 tracks, and then it ended up doing. I mean, we got like we must have 9 songs, almost already, and it's really weird actually because hey, look, I'm not want to big ourselves up or anything like that, but it just seems to have happened. It just, we seem to find a melody and a riff and a progression, and we seem to be able to find a melody to set over the top and get some decent vocals on it. We were doing some funky videos to start with as well on Luma Fusion and like doing all that sort of stuff, and then we're focusing a bit more on the music now. But yeah, I probably agree with Andy with that point really around, we're really chuffed, don't we, mate, that we're able to do something. And look, we know we're not going to be the next big things, but I guess this gives us the opportunity to be able to try and get people to feel our music, and that's what's, for me, that's mega important. So every time I try and write, every time I try and find a melody or a path or something like that, I want to move the person listening. I don't want to just play a run-of-the-mill like chord progression. I want to find something that's got light and shade. And actually, when I really love to take a song down in the mix, put some lovely stuff over the top, and then punch it back up and really come out with a bit of fierce and a bit of fire. And we try and write like that, and heavy drums, heavy guitar, big guitar solo, driving chorus, and that's what we love to do. And whenever we finish a song and we box it off and we finish it and then we master it and it's all done, then you feel pretty chuffed with that. So yeah, I think we're quite proud of that.
Brilliant. It is good. You know that my motto around here is create, record, release, and that releasing or sharing of your music, I think, is super important. And I'm sure you folks have learned a whole lot and got a lot of positive but also constructive feedback about ways you can improve and continue growing and developing and making your music even better. Got a couple of final questions that have come in here from the folks who live. So Solrak, I think we talked a little bit about that, but types of microphone you use, just want to reiterate what you're using there for recording your vocals, Stu?
Yeah, I was using an SM58, but I found it was a little bit splashy on the vocals. I don't know if that's probably my settings. It didn't feel as good. So I bought a Rode NT. Is it called an NT1 AP? I don't know what it's called.
Yep.
Yeah. Which is a condenser mic with an XLR fitting. So I use that, and it is next level quality, next level. But you've got to be careful because it picks up like everything as well. But it's meant for rocks and it's great for melodies as well.
Very cool. And Daniel's been bugging us the entire stream here. He wants to see the guitar. He's just got a sneak peek of it. Can you take that off the wall and just show us? That's a very fine looking piece of kit.
There you go.
Beautiful.
Where's it gone?
Yep.
There you go.
There you go. There you are, Daniel. You'll be happy now. You can go to sleep and be okay. That is going to do it. I'll let you folks have the final word here on the stream. But a big thank you to you both for your time here this evening. For you, yes, you can jump down into the description. As I said, you can follow the boys on Facebook, on Instagram, on YouTube. They are pumping out tunes at a rapid rate. No pressure, but hopefully that will continue happening. And support the boys there. And I'm sure if you throw some comments or questions their way, that they'll be happy. If you didn't get your question answered here, make sure you follow them online and throw your questions there, and I'm sure they'll get back to you there. I like to let folks have the final word. So any parting thoughts? Andy, for you first of all.
No, Pete, thanks for interviewing us. Thanks for having us on the show. And again, the community that's around, in particular, create, record, release, your channel, even though we've played for years, we don't pretend that we know it all, and the feedback, which is really positive, even when somebody's, coming up with a suggestion that you don't necessarily agree with. It just absolutely helps us. And again, if you're out there creating music, don't be frightened to share it with the community either, because there's a lot of people out there who are more than willing to give their advice and give their help. And it's helped us, it's spurred us on, and we'll keep doing it. So for everybody who's watching and has messaged me and Stu, thank you. Really, it's been a great help. Really has.
Brilliant.
Okay, that's beautiful. I guess my parting shot is I would completely echo Andy, right? And I think that you and so I jump on yours a lot, and I jump on most of Jade's as well. And I think that without what you do, there's no way we'd be doing anything like this. I'd probably be still recording on a dictaphone. If so I think that, look, you know, honestly, I think, you know, there's massive kudos to what you do, and the community that you've built, and I think that a lot of people are probably just as thankful, and a lot of people are probably getting just bags and bags and bags from it, and that's why you've got 50,000 followers, and Jade started to pump through hers as well. And I think that's just brilliant, and you should be massively proud of what you've done and how you've helped people to be able to create, record, and release their tracks. How's that for a finish?
Oh, brilliant! The checks are in the mail, guys, but they'll take a while at the moment to get the mail over the pond. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you to all the folks who have been here live as well. If you're watching on the replay and you've got more comments or questions, you can throw those here on Facebook or YouTube. Do check out the boys. Do follow them online in the links down below. And if you got some value out of this one today, hitting the like button just tells us that you thought Stu and Andy had some fun things to say here today. Thank you, folks. Thank you, Stu. Thank you, Andy. Thank you, ball boys, ball girls. Until the next video, the next Creator Series interview, we will see you on the next one. Take care, everyone. Cheers.